we're back on another exciting episode of Cooking with the Captain.
Is that what we're doing?
We're doing Cooking with the Captain. All your base are belong to us.
What's that from? It's clearly
That's from
a
a video game that was very poorly translated from Japanese to English, and actually, like in-game text is "all your base are belong to us."
Yeah. Do you know which particular game? Sorry,
I can't remember the name of it. There was like a really
Yeah.
obscure game that no one cared about until someone made a meme about it in like 2009, and then it became cool for a hot minute.
Yeah,
That's 100%.
I guess it would be considered like an ancient meme. I think today it would probably like relevance with the geriatric millennial crowd.
okay.
But yeah.
That's pretty funny. Well, I remember I used to say it all the time, and I didn't know really why, but it just sounded fun to say it.
Well, isn't that even where we got the term, like, that's a fail rather than failure? I mean, wasn't it from some poor English in a video game? That was a fail.
Probably.
Yeah.
That happened a lot. They in like the video game world and the anime world, it's like you just sometimes you don't have the money to pay for like good translation, so you just call like your cousin Hiro who lives in San Francisco, like, you speak English and Japanese, you translate this for us. There you go.
Yeah.
Indeed. Well, welcome back, everybody. We're here on another Saturday afternoon conversation about Star Trek. Today we're talking about Star Trek, the animated series, and I spelled Trek with a lowercase t in my banner. I'll fix that in a second. Today's episode is episode 2 of season 2, BEM, which stands for Bug-Eyed Monster.
Indeed.
Which is pretty funny. But so Fathery's what are you cooking, Fathery, by the way? I meant to ask you.
A goulash, which I'm kind of embarrassed about because I feel like it's not a very like good like Texan cuisine. It's more like I don't know. To me, it feels like more like a Midwestern type dish. But it has like Velveeta cheese. It's not like good food. It's not like grandma's cooking or anything.
Hey, we got a new person on the Facebook feed. Ryan Stepanoff. I'm a newbie. What's up, y'all? Hey, Ryan, welcome. It's nice to see you. The active chat is on YouTube. I hate to take you off of Facebook. You can go hang out there. But if you want to like talk to other Trekkies, they're all hanging out here on YouTube. And by the way, welcome, YouTube audience. It's nice to see y'all this Saturday afternoon here. I like what Jill posted. I actually got excited about this too. I love that Uhura was in command just because of being the highest ranking bridge officer, not because all the men were incapacitated. Yeah.
Well, that was 50% of my comments. So thanks, Joe.
Also, Bem Kenobi here. That's a really good idea. A mohawk combined with balding guy fringe. And did he have also a... Oh, no, he didn't have a... I thought he had a handlebar as well. But
I'm so glad Joel mentioned this, because this is a good episode for those of us with some male pattern baldness, because there's some security guards. There was a guy there like who was really receding and had like a little bald spot in the back. I'm like, that's great. I'm so glad they had him as just, a member of the team. So you always there's much more interesting sort of like hair in the animated series between the mustaches and some other stuff on top. So
and then let's see, Cake is Eternals here too. Hey, just reading back in the comments, talk about me behind my back, huh? Oh, sorry. That's funny. No one's talking about you behind your back. All right, Father's back in the studio now. So, oh, yay. Oh, wait. That's weird. I was like, there we go. Wow, that was weird. That was a cool transition there. So Sub Commander and Fathery are back. Aaron's out today, but he might show up in the chat, and we never know where that colony being Ruben is. But you never know. He might show up, or parts of him might show up. We shall see. Would either of you gentlemen like to do the episode summary on this one? Sorry.
I don't know if I'm familiar enough with it to do it. I just saw it for the first time this morning. So
all right, yeah. So, while you do that, I'll send out tweets and stuff like that. So it's perfect.
So
I'm listening.
Unfortunately, the I guess Starfleet or the Federation have recently encountered a race called the Pandorians, and one of them named like BEM Bobby Bullshit or something is the most obnoxious,
It's
terrible,
bim bam
hateable
boom, bim bam
character
boom.
like ever created in any form of fiction. And I despise everything about this dude. He just, for whatever reason, he just like really pisses me off. But like he's supposed to be observing Starfleet at work, and Kirk is like, hey, you just like hang out in your room like for the last 6 missions, like you don't do anything. We're hauling you around. You're supposed to be like this big fancy observer. And he's like, well, I'm going to observe you now. We're going to beam down to this planet where there's aboriginal lizards. This is how they're referring to the local
They're
population.
like the
But
Mintakans of Gorn, right? Like maybe they're like
yeah,
that
they're
same.
they're a
Yeah,
bit more a bit more primitive society early in their evolution. And but this jerk like keeps doing like weird like little pranks, I guess, just to observe them deal with I don't know, struggling with like these new obstacles like on the fly. It's like really weird observations. But he's like he has them like beamed down into the water uh instead of on land, just to see what happens, I guess. And he makes like fake communicators and fake phasers to give them, just to be like, oh, let's just like throw you in danger without any means of communication or ways to defend yourself. And it's just really gross when he starts like splitting himself apart like on screen, like sending like his arms and legs and head flying. Like, I don't know, I just kind of feel like that's like disrespectful to do in front of other people. And they made an intelligent energy being because this episode needed like something else going on in it to overcomplicate it a little bit. But we this energy being is like, no, I'm gonna be protective of my lizard people here, and I could like destroy this obnoxious colony creature, but I won't, because in Star Trek we teach that rehabilitation is a better way to deal with crime and punishment than incarceration or punishment or revenge or anything like that. So I guess I had like a cool message to it. But yeah, it's like an annoying creature created by David Gerald that was originally going to be played by two little people in live action. Like one standing on top of the shoulders of another one. So probably what they did in animation was probably a better sci-fi idea, I guess. But not, this is like season 2 of TAS is not quite. From what Aaron has said, the writers Dorothy Fontana and the other like Trek people kind of weren't as hands on throughout the entire like animation process. I think they just approved the script, and then it was kind of out of their hands. So sometimes you'd get like weird stuff, like weird designs and like weird aliens that I don't know might look like a little less Star Trek than what we were used to. But I mean, like the Jihad was already getting pretty weird with some stuff going on there. So we definitely see more of that in season 2, and I think BEM kind of has a lot here. So it's probably my least favorite episode of the animated series.
Oh wow, that's interesting. Well, I like this episode a lot, but what did you think, Sub Commander?
Yeah, well, I hadn't seen it before. I'd heard of it, and I knew BEM being Bug-Eyed Monster. I knew David Gerald had written it, but when it began with them being transported into the water, I thought, oh, is this the one with like all the practical jokes? But no, it wasn't that one. There's another one, I guess, called Practical Joker. But I kind of I liked it better than the Jihad, actually. I mean, I kind of I don't know, maybe it's just the message at the end. I mean, there's parts of it. Yes, this main character is pretty annoying, and it would have been a better payoff if like he was being annoying in a way to gauge these characters in an instructive way, rather than kind of like at the end, he just needed saving, and they ended up doing all the same things he was preventing them from doing earlier, but then it was the right thing. I don't know, but I kind of liked that he disassembled like that. That took me totally by surprise when he went in the water.
It's
Like,
also
oh my
funny when
God,
he's
his
like,
legs were, yeah, sorry.
oh, I was just saying, just before he like went off and disappeared and left them in the cages, he's like leaning on his hips with his arms and his head's floating, and I just thought that was hilarious.
I thought it was hilarious too. I thought that was kind of funny. Is this the first time we hear Tiberius? I think
Yes,
is that
that's
right?
right.
Okay.
I think that's what Memory
Um,
Alpha told me, anyways.
yeah, and
Which I was surprised at. I can't believe, like, we just did our TOS. I guess I just took it for granted, like having heard the name Tiberius, that like it was said in the actual
TOS.
show. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I guess
Oh, Father, you're on mute.
Sorry, Star Trek 6 was the most famous one for a lot of people, but this does predate it by like 18 years, I guess.
Yeah. Gosh, only that amount? It seems like a much bigger gap somehow between those. But like Jill said, I did really like that Uhura was in command without it being a big deal. It was just sort of like natural that that's what she would do. And you know, the part of the show, the part of the episode that was about this god creature and its children, it reminded me a little bit of Justice in TNG, where they kind of had that orbiting thing that was taking care of the slightly more primitive people. I think that's kind of an interesting concept. I mean, David Gerald, you know, he's a clever writer. I don't think he's as clever as he thinks he is, but he's a clever writer, and you can tell he was still quite young when he wrote this because you know, he's very earnest in the messaging at the end of it, and I think it is good messaging on the whole that, you know, you shouldn't punishment is something to be avoided unless you know, only punish if the person can't learn. You know, if someone can learn from mistakes, I mean, don't catastrophize your mistakes, try to learn from them. And I thought that was a good message. So yeah, kind of a weird episode, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, totally. I kind of feel like you and I are super aligned on this. Like, I feel like a lot of the same points. I also found it really interesting that there were kind of, I just liked, one thing that I really liked was like how it sparked my imagination about like, oh yeah, like especially this episode. And I think the Jihad had what was his name? The reptilian sword, right? Was it sword?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like because we don't see a lot of reptilians. I guess probably because they're hard to do on the live action shows,
Yeah.
and it's really neat to see them more variations of these like kind of reptilians. And so
Yeah.
it reminded me of like the Mentakans, but also the entity reminded me of the entity in Metamorphosis, right? Like, wasn't it also like a bunch of like kind of like
Flashing
flashing
lights.
lights and
Yeah.
stuff like that? So but it also reminded me of Justice,
Yeah.
I was
with the
thinking
Edo.
Justice this
Yeah,
morning
with the
watching
Edo,
it.
and especially how like the entity was saying "my children," right? Like that was the
Mhm.
same thing with the other one there. So yeah, I liked all these like little things that I love it when I wonder, oh, did TNG get the inspiration for that from this? You know, like
Yeah,
so.
and I
Yeah.
think Justice probably did because Gene Roddenberry was so involved in season 1 of TNG, and even David Gerald was for a little bit.
Right. And I don't know whether all the scripts with lizard people came from David Gerald, but I don't know if did he invent the slee stack? I mean, he was definitely involved in Land of the Lost, and
Yeah.
these guys had a slee stack kind of feel to them. Or as Joel says, they look like the lizard people in the AT&T Monster Manual. That is definitely true. Yeah, love lizard people.
Arth, Sir Uncle Art says the entire race may have issues built into their culture. The female one was certainly just as annoying in Lower Deck. That's right. We get the Spock even says that maybe because Kirk's like, this guy's like really annoying, and he's like, or he's very confusing or something, and he's like, maybe it's not so confusing to another what are they called again?
I don't think they're
Pandorian?
Pandora, but it's close,
No,
like Plandorn or
Palindor.
Palindor. Yeah, I don't know.
Palindor. I can just look it up here. I wrote it, I think, actually. I've
Mm.
got it written down here, I think, somewhere. Nope, I just wrote colony beings. But anyways,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I thought that was that was cool that we got another one in Lower Decks, and she was just as kind of obnoxious as this one. Oh, thank you, Benji. Pandronian. Pandronian. It's not Pandorian. It's Pandronian.
Yeah, because the planet is Pandro.
Pandro. Yeah. So they're like, I guess, an advanced species of kind of, and they're secretly assessing the crew of the Enterprise to see if they'll open diplomatic negotiations, but I guess they never did. Like, I don't know what, it'd be neat to have like more information about what happened between, like, did they join the Federation? Like, because I don't think we get those tidbits in Lower Decks, do we? She's just a consultant, right?
I don't want to join with them or have diplomatic relations with them.
They're that annoying.
Cake says, I hope Gates McFadden doesn't catch you guys eating live on screen again. That's true. Gates McFadden made it a point to comment that she watched Remember Me, and I was eating a sandwich during it, and so she's like, and one of them was even eating a sandwich. That's how casual and informal it is.
That's great.
So yeah, so that's pretty cool. I don't have screenshots today. This one was on an away mission and couldn't make it home on time to do them. Father, you don't have to pull it up, but I'll try to pull up a few because I do have the episode here, so I'll try to pull up images randomly here and there. But I mean, guys, you can look up the images for this one. It's pretty iconic. BEM's out there. You can find them easily. But yeah, so let's get into the episode details here. So I like one of the things that was interesting to me was that they were on a series of contact missions, and this kind of goes back to the whole idea of like the Enterprise doing its patrolling or its missions, like around like first contact missions, which I also thought was cool because relating it to Lower Decks, which does second contact missions, and so they had this like this species on their ship as well, so that was kind of cool and doing something kind of not similar, but like the vibe was similar anyways with like the consulting and, and all that stuff. But what did you guys think of the whole thing with the Prime Directive and like how they handled it, with regards to this planet and stuff?
Yeah, well,
because I feel like this was kind of one of the first times we're like getting into that kind of stuff.
It felt kind of more TNG in the approach to like the Prime Directive than TOS in some ways. It was kind of more. It was kind of like transitioning to like when the franchise was kind of deciding like, oh, we're gonna get like really fascinated with like the Prime Directive, and probably like too fascinated with it for about 18 years. But
yeah, the Prime Directive hygiene is improving in this episode. I mean, it's interesting. They do touch on it a little bit in the end, but BEM sort of seems to be in some ways holding it against them that they're coming in contact with this culture, with the Slee Stacks. But at the same time, BEM is kind of driving the action that's making them get in contact with the Slee Stacks. And, BEM doesn't want them to use violence, even though their phasers are on stun. But then, when it doesn't work out, BEM seems to really appreciate them using their phasers and getting them out of there. So, I mean, I guess the message of don't interfere if you don't have to comes through a little bit at the end, but it's tangled up with BEM's sort of strange machinations.
Yeah, 100%. I like what you said, Father, about how it seems more like TNG. That makes complete sense to me too. Like it does seem like they handled it that way, and he even says, but I feel like they would have known that because I feel like in a way, like they definitely don't have warp capabilities, so they should have just left them alone in the first place. It should have been just like a survey mission, like a duck blind or something, and they should have been trying to like be more, inconspicuous, I thought. Oh, Father, you're on mute again.
Sorry.
It's all right. I know you're eating.
They're just gonna peek through the bushes, right? They're like they weren't actually planning to talk to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's true. You're right. I forgot about the part where it's BEM who I like that line that he says. What is it like? It's a food gathering party, and they gathered BEM.
And the food,
yeah, you're right.
It's BEM.
The food is BEM.
Yeah,
it's a weird way of describing a hunting party, a food gathering party.
Yeah, it's just like the casual food gathering that happens in all those factory farms and stuff. We're just gathering food. Yeah, it's I guess a little bit like not the food gathering, but that they weren't going to interfere is a little bit like the Paradise Syndrome, where they're kind of observing the Native American peoples of this planet from afar, and they don't really mean to get in touch with them. But then something extraordinary happens, like the pylon that knocks Captain Kirk out, or in this case, a strange colony being that runs away that makes them come in contact.
I thought about this too. Lizard people make Gilligan's Island style jail cells that probably weigh 30 pounds. Yeah, those jail cells did not seem like they were like impossible to get out of. Like you could probably just like knock them down, or if you like push really hard.
Come on, Spock. Like I'm dumb as hell, and I think I could figure out a way out of there.
He's only Vulcan. Yeah, what does he say? I wrote it
Yeah,
down.
something about the neck pinch. Like Kirk brought it up, and Spock sort of dismissed it, sort of in an amusing way. But why not? Why couldn't you do the neck pinch if you got close to one of these guys? Or I don't know.
Oh, I thought I wrote it down. I didn't write it down. But it
Oh.
was something like I'm Vulcan, but well, oh darn, what was it? Anyway, someone in the audience might know it. I think Joel might know it, or Ben. um, Jill says my favorite line is when Kirk says,
Oh, right.
"Why they always end up in jail." Yeah, that's true. They're starting to have that kind of dynamic that I'm like kind of that I was left with the film era. They're starting to like transition into more of that kind of thing. There's like these funny kind of more funny moments, I think, that remind me of the later dynamic, which makes sense because this is later, in their careers and continuity and everything like that.
That funny like banter stuff and like more like those character moments. That's actually something like Gene kind of wanted Star Trek to always have. And in early season 1, you see more like that type of stuff. Then it like kind of goes away for a bit.
Yeah.
I think here when TAS has I guess Gene real heavily involved after TOS. He's kind of like less and less involved with the show the longer it goes on. Whereas TAS is kind of like like the return of the Roddenberry in a lot of ways. So you get a lot of those like strong early Roddenberry influences, and even stuff that you will see carried on into TNG. Like next week we get to see the, I guess, first attempt at depicting a holodeck with the rec room.
That's right. I heard, I saw this too, what Uncle Art is saying about Gerald actually offered up this story outline for BEM for the 3rd season of TOS, and I wondered how they would have done the effects for this in live action at the time.
It would have been a little person standing on top of another little person's shoulders, and then they could.
I'm so glad they didn't do that. That would not have aged well.
Well, it depends how they did it, but yeah, that does make sense.
Best case scenario, it would have aged like as well as something like the Horda. So maybe it would have been cool, but that's also like a really like well written episode. The Devil in the Dark. I don't know if I don't know if Gerald is going to be able to get that out of BEM.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, instead of no kill eye, it's please kill eye. Let's get rid of this guy.
Yeah, I mean that's the truth.
What was it? What else happens? Let's see. Well, we got to talk about Uhura being in charge. I thought that was awesome. I remembered she was in charge twice, but I love the way that she handled everything. And she's like, and Scotty's like, we got to go find them, and she's like, no, I know you want to, but so there's like good tension in that part.
Yeah,
I thought that was well written too.
Yeah, what's great about it is she's not in command and just telling red shirt subordinates what to do, or the main character's minds are affected, so she has to take over. She's talking to a functional Scotty, and she's overriding him and like winning this argument, and like what she's doing makes sense. So I think it's a great moment for her. I mean, I kind of prefer it to the moment in the other one with the where it's more explicit that it's the women taking over because the men are in La La Land.
And Lorelai's Lorelai's signal.
But yeah, it was great. The one thing
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say the one thing I was disappointed about when this part with the parts of the show that were on the ship versus on the planet was one, you didn't have any Dr. McCoy, I don't think, and then
there was no Dr. McCoy in this episode. You're absolutely right.
They mentioned the phaser rifles. They were going to come down with phaser rifles, and I was like, oh yes, we're going to see phaser rifles again. But then they didn't seem to happen. So, oh well.
Hey, Geek Filter's in the audience. Welcome. Nice to see you. Geek Filter, tell us what you thought of this episode in the chat, and thanks for coming in. That's very cool. Let's see. Uncle Art says here, Roddenberry. Oh, why aren't you clicking? I've been having a lot of problems with clicking, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm not sure what's going on with my computer. Roddenberry had a big problem with 5 because he felt Shatner was stealing his god in Star Trek from him. Wow, Roddenberry really loves the beings with like extraordinary abilities that could be godlike.
I think it was Harlan Ellison who had a great quote about that, where it was probably in relation to the motion picture, but he said, Gene Roddenberry has a standard plot. the Enterprise meets God, and it's either a child or a computer or both. And he's not wrong. I mean, well, maybe it's a little unfair, but he did like Roddenberry, that kind of idea.
I thought it was interesting how BEM was ready to, what was he going to do? Disassociate himself, or
yeah,
like this one like little failure, and he's like ready to like no
because
longer.
he erred.
Yeah, because he erred. Yeah. And
No, I like that message, because it's like, how many of us can relate to like messing up or like being embarrassed, and then you just catastrophize it. You just want to cut it out of your life and pretend it, or and make it seem worse than it is. But I like the message from Nichelle Nichols there as the energy creature of saying, you learn from this and like explore what you did wrong and try to do better next time. So I thought that message was good.
yeah, it's a very good Star Trek message, but it's also a good message in life.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we now know that Kirk would have rather have been a librarian if he, or contemplated being a librarian, and I like that because it's a nice callback to
the stack of book with legs. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of
yeah.
cool that that's what he might have wanted to do if he weren't a starship captain.
Think of that, yeah.
I could see Captain Kirk. I like also that Spock says, "Well, the job would be just as difficult, but perhaps not as dangerous." Is being a librarian more difficult than being a captain of a starship? I don't know, Spock. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's the case. Although, keeping books in the order of the Dewey Decimal, do we still use the Dewey Decimal System, or are we using the Library of Congress's system now finally in libraries?
I don't know.
Okay. I figured I thought you might know since you live in the
area. Yeah, just by osmosis, since I'm about 12 miles from the Library of Congress.
Congress, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
By the way, is it true? I understand that like all TV shows, American TV shows at least, are archived at the Library of Congress. So that means like Star Trek is part of that collection as well, I think. But I think I read that somewhere.
That's a big archive, but I guess you can archive anything. I hadn't heard that, but maybe.
I mean, I guess I just think of the Library of Congress as like it has everything. It's like the vault of all knowledge, I guess.
Yeah.
Jill says my local library still uses a Dewey Decimal System. I forget what the other system is called. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up real quick. While I look it up, what did you guys think? What else did you guys have like observations about this episode?
Well, I said my phaser rifle piece, and the male pattern baldness piece. Yeah, I don't know if I have any other particular observations that are sticking out. Just like we mentioned, there was no. Do we know why DeForest Kelley didn't appear in this one? That's pretty unusual. I mean, I know there was a couple original series episodes he didn't appear in fairly early on, or at least all in season 1. But I wonder if he had something else going on that week. I mean, that's strange.
I think there's a couple of these that he's not in. But yeah, I think that's just more a condition of like the budget, just having like episodes with fewer voice actors and stuff. Probably like wasn't worth it to create like a scene for him. Like, oh, we don't have anything for DeForest to do. It's like, oh, good. Then we don't have to like pay him to record anything.
Yeah,
he was probably fine with it. Like, go hang out with his on that
Caroline.
Yeah, like, with leopards and stuff like that.
Yeah, and turtles and
turtles.
He liked his animals.
Let's see here. I live in a rural area, so we order books from big systems of all these tiny libraries, and they mail them to each other for us to pick up. That
sounds good.
Maybe we should have them like on little video discs, with Mr. Atos, and have the lined up rather by historical era, and we can travel back in time to the particular story. People know what I'm talking about. Come on. But like the library and all our yesterdays.
I couldn't think of the name of the episode because all the yesterday ones confused.
Yeah.
Like, all our yesterdays, tomorrow is yesterday, yesteryear. Yesterday is tomorrow. It's hard to keep those straight.
Oh, something I would have liked a little more payoff was I thought it was interesting. I mean, it was kind of like BEM's, I didn't understand it, but I think they could have done something better with it. Like I didn't understand why BEM replaced the tricorder and the phaser to begin with. Like I know he says like you guys rely on it too much, but then he just like easily gives them back when they're like, well, they can solve our problems. Like, so that's like part of the weirdness, I guess, of it is. But I thought it would have been interesting if BEM actually had like a lesson, like, look, I can, like, it would have been cool if he was like, look, I'll get us out of the situation without using, these, your tools or whatever. But instead he's just kind of like, oh, okay, well, you need them, well, here, you can have them back. And then so that was like one of the things that I thought could have been better on the episode.
They make that communicator sandwich out of them, don't they? Where they like put the two together to do one quick burst. I always like when there's some, the communicator or any technology can suddenly have a little bit a special ability to meet the needs of the plot, like in Friday's Child, where Spock uses the communicator to like blow up some rocks, like it shoots out some ultrasonic beam or something, and some of the rocks explode, if you remember that scene. But
yeah,
that's funny what they can do when they need to.
Commodore Trev, yay, he was with us last night on the After Dark show.
Howdy, Trev.
I think we're all a little hungover, except for the sub commander. Can you imagine Jim Kirk showing up to collect your overdue library? I would love that. Paul Wesley can come and collect my library books.
I would love to hear him like just at one point just be like, "Oh, I knew I should have been a librarian" or something like that in Strange New Worlds, just to acknowledge that. 'Cause I kind of do like that as like that was something that he had considered.
Geek Filter says, I think it was to observe what humans would do without their technology, since he was evaluating them. Yeah, I guess that's true. He's like he likes to just kind of do things and see what happens. He's like an instigator, and he wants to like kind of see what happens.
That's what, like, if I'm gonna like go to a doctor and like see if he's gonna be like a good doctor, it's like, okay, well, in order for me to like test this doctor first, like I'm gonna go like give him a fake stethoscope. I'm gonna go like just sabotage like all this stuff, and then I'm gonna observe him and see how he works and how he functions. And then based on like that performance, I'll have like a good idea if I want him to be my doctor or not. I don't know. If you poke at it too much, it's like,
yeah,
it doesn't really make sense.
When they said colony creature, they kind of said it as though this wasn't the first time we'd heard that term. Is there any other mention of a colony creature? I did kind of like that. I mean, that sort of implies like the parts are not just independent, but maybe they each, have their own kind of mind or something like that. But I like that it was only a few parts in a way, because I know we've had like collective creatures where it's, all these, whether it's the little vomit monsters in Operation Annihilate, they're all individual brain cells in one huge thing, or the Borg, thousands of guys into one huge brain. But having a colony that's just like 4 or 5 guys, you got your leg guy and your arms guy and your head. I don't know if they ever mentioned colony creature before.
They come back in Star Trek Discovery. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's more of a like an animal, like it's more like a wild animal. What was it? It was on that episode where that was kind of like, I call it like the soft.
All is possible.
Yeah, it's the one where it's like a Starfleet Academy kind of
Tilly
scenario,
and the cadets,
right?
on the snowy field trip in Disco season 3, and the colony creature was very similar to the big red monster that chased Chris Pine and Leonard Nimoy in Star Trek 09.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, totally.
But I like the idea of a few guys. Maybe it's too much Voltron cartoons when I was young, but like, those 5 lions or whatever they were, the Constructicons coming together.
Yeah.
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 Oh, it says here
in Transformers.
Yeah.
On Memory Alpha, they're saying that in 2364, the micro brain became a colony of single cells which organized like a computer and was more powerful after an energy surge in its reproductive cycle. So home soil might have been a colony creature, but I don't know if they didn't say it was one, but yeah. And then the thing in All Is Possible is called a Tuscadian pyrosome.
Okay.
A colony species consisting of thousands of interconnected zooids. I gotta look up what a zooid is. That's pretty cool. Aaron says, just like every script written by somebody else, Gene had it rewritten and revised probably too many times. Check out the Star Trek Adventures supplemental. We talk about how they are similar to the Trill. Okay, very cool.
Yeah, okay.
Very cool.
Geek Filter, I saw you on Peacock earlier this morning. We watched BEM in
I
the
missed
Tech
it.
Spark
I'm so
Discord.
bummed.
But then after
Yeah.
that, we watched some of the Center Seat documentary series it's on Peacock now. I don't know if people know that that's streaming.
Oh,
The
okay.
Gates McFadden
Oh, I'll check it out. That's cool.
narrated. Yeah, it was like really well done. I guess docu-series is what you call it. But the episode 2 of that is like a 47-minute long doc all about the animated series, and it includes several interviews of our friend Aaron, as well as his collaborator on the book, Rich Shepis, and also our friend Larry Nemechek, and people who worked on the show. And all those are cool. Like, not just like the animated series one, but all the other ones are really good too.
Aaron says, oh, okay. Yeah, it was weird to have Dr. Crusher respond to things I said. I gotta watch that. I haven't seen that. How many episodes are there again?
10, I believe. No more than that. Although it's really good.
Very
Like
cool.
they talk about like possibly doing more, because it kind of like stops with like the J.J. Abrams Star Trek. It doesn't really get into like the Alex Kurtzman era, which is understandable.
okay.
Like that's still like ongoing. But as we get like a few more years out, I think. I mean, 2 of the shows have already concluded with Discovery and Picard. There's 2 episodes right there. You can.
Yeah, it's true. Oh, very cool. I'll check that whole series out. So one of the things that I thought was kind of fun was that BEM was constantly like flat out insulting Captain Kirk, like, oh, we were told you're the best captain in Starfleet, but you seem to be very you're definitely not living up to that and stuff. And Kirk is annoyed from the start, of course, with BEM, but he kind of handles it in a really good. I was kind of like on the second viewing, I was kind of like paying attention. It's like Kirk doesn't really address him. He just kind of like sticks to the facts. Like, even though you can tell, I like that in the voice performance, you can tell there's a little bit of annoyance or like, impatience, if you will.
Yeah.
And I also noticed that, I don't know if this is like just this episode or something, but for some reason it felt like the expressions were more varied on the characters in this episode, especially like I noticed like there were a lot of scenes where like with Kirk especially, you had a lot of varied expressions, and I thought that was pretty cool. But but I do like how he kind of Kirk kind of gets his like moments where he's shut up, we're rescuing you. to fight back a little bit.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
But
it made me miss Kirk, and then I started watching a little bit of Generations, and then I was like, I can't do this.
Oh yeah, I saw that tweet you had about I miss Captain Kirk, or it made me cry or something.
Yeah, I said I weep for Captain Kirk.
I weep for Captain Kirk.
Yes, I do weep for him when he dies.
I wept that it wasn't a better death.
That's good. Essential to watch. There's a companion. I think they're talking about the Center Seat. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I remember it coming out, but I didn't watch it at the time. Yeah. Now I wonder where. I know he's talked about it because, if you get an interview with David Gerald, a 10-minute interview will go 3 hours. But I wonder where he got the idea to have it be Tiberius, and how that got approved. I mean, it's very creative and interesting. And I don't know anything about the Roman emperor, whether he was on balance good or bad, or how history is.
I think they were all kind of bad.
I think I think he was known for being like a a nasty. It's almost kind of
Yeah.
like a knock against him when
Mm.
Chang says it in Star Trek 6. He's like, James Tiberius Kirk,
Okay.
you know?
But it seems to come out of nowhere. I mean, it's interesting. I just wonder what was going through his head when he came up with that.
I just was surprised that this was the first mention, like I said, but he's always been James T. Kirk, right?
I just remembered in Strange New Worlds, my favorite episode of that show, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, with La'an is like calling that out about like, wait a minute, like your brother's middle name is Sam, and like you're telling me that like only you call him Sam, which is a lie. We all call him Sam, but then like your middle name is Tiberius, like.
Mm. Well, it was originally Riberius, so it was because it was James R. Kirk. He was really James Riberius Kirk. So I guess they liked the Tiberius better.
Yeah, when he's like, yeah, my middle name is Tiberius, and then she's like, oh well, what's Sam's middle name? Like Sam Augustus Kirk, and he's like, no, his middle name is Sam. Only I call him Sam, and she's like, no, everyone calls him Sam, you idiot.
That's funny.
It says I just looked for some bullet points on Tiberius's reign. I don't see that he was particularly terrible until his later years. Tiberius spent the last years of his reign in self-imposed exile in Capri, leaving the day-to-day governance of the empire to others amidst growing paranoia and debauchery rumors. So they all end up like that.
They all end up with paranoia and debauchery.
It's like where they go. But he was the successor apparently to Augustus Caesar.
Oh, he was the one right after him. Oh,
So
yeah,
he's like
really the third one. Okay,
tough
interesting.
act to follow, I guess.
Yeah. And they mentioned the name in the 09 film too, when they're thinking what to name baby James T. Kirk, when I guess the Kelvin is being destroyed, and
we learned it was Winona's dad who was named James, and I guess George Kirk's dad was Tiberius Kirk.
Right. Yeah, Tiberius, that's the worst. No, let's name him after your dad. We'll call him Jim or something. Or I guess they were thinking what would be the first name, and so Tiberius became the middle name. But it's fun. It certainly stuck.
Geek Filter says that was slightly alternate universe where the only difference was Riberius instead of Tiberius.
Yeah.
And Joel is saying, well, he wasn't Nero or Caligula. That's true.
James Caligula Kirk.
Caligula, you dirty MF. Which is true.
We did get a Nero in Star Trek, though.
Oh, we did, yes.
We did. That's right. Oh yeah, Nero.
Oh, there you go. I knew there was some story about it. Thank you, Jill. So he kind of came up with it spontaneously, perhaps with all the enthusiasm of youth at a convention, and then it became
Star Trek
official.
History.
Yeah,
very nice.
Great, love that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
When Mike and Denise Okuda did the original series remaster. They say on the commentary, I don't know, or on one of the special features on the Blu-ray, I don't know how serious it is, but they said like they considered altering the R on the tombstone and where no man has gone before and changing it to a T, but they didn't want to like do anything that might affect the story of the episode. They only wanted to change the visuals, and they thought like, oh well, maybe we can like retcon in this idea of this is Gary Mitchell starting to lose it when he got the middle initial wrong, and so they left it. I agree with them. I would have left that alone too. Oh, just real quick, I don't know if I've told you this, Subcommander, but I've been like rewatching the original series on Blu-ray lately with the original effects without the remap.
Okay, yeah.
Like so much of that stuff looks like so good in 4K, or like the PS5 upscale of the Blu-ray and 4K. It looks like gorgeous. It's the best I've ever seen.
Oh, I gotta check that out.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah,
I have them on
the original effects you're talking about.
Yeah.
Look at, yeah. Okay. Neat. Yeah, I don't have that version. I still watch my old DVDs of them.
You have them. The DVDs are the original effects too.
Yeah. It was. Cool. They're from before the remaster. I mean, they're ancient. I've had them forever. They were the ones in those like the red, the yellow, and the blue kind of capsules they came in. Actually, they're getting a little glitchy. I should probably buy the new ones, but I like all the interviews and stuff that are on there. There's a lot of people who are no longer with us. So
I bought that 40 DVD set when they were only putting like 2 episodes on a disc.
oh wow,
It took me
okay,
like years to get all of those. And
yeah,
they started
Why were
doing
they
like the
doing it
box
like that?
sets.
That's interesting.
Well, that's how they did it on VHS too. They just did
Yeah.
like 2 episodes per VHS.
Oh.
So I have all those tapes. I'm not gonna go upstairs and bust them out right now, but I have all of the tapes, all the DVDs. It's a lot.
yeah.
Takes up a lot of space.
Yes, it does, and we have an uneasy truce in this household where if I bring in new books and things like that, then some old ones have to go out in return, and I don't want to take the old DVDs out, so I haven't bought the new like Blu-rays or 4Ks or anything like that. But that's good to know. Yeah, I mean the effects are so good, even for their time. I mean they were great in their time, and some of those opticals still really hold up. And I just, as much as I respect what they did, and not to turn this into another conversation with the remastered, I just,
No,
I
totally go
hate
for it.
seeing like there's so much more of a piece with everything else you see on that show, and it just it always takes me out of it seeing the new effects. I mean, partly that's just because I didn't encounter them too much later, but if I have a choice, I'll always watch the original effects.
Yeah, I have to. I haven't. I mean, I only have the. No, actually, I think I do have the Blu-ray that you could switch back and forth. I gotta try.
Every physical
Yeah.
media release after
Has
they
both.
did the remaster has both. Unlike
Oh,
some other
okay.
Star franchises, they've never taken away the original version. They've never
Unlike some
they've
other
never
Star franchises.
uncanonified
Yeah.
it. They've never been like, no, like that's not real. That's the fake version. That's like a rough cut. Just ignore that. They've never done that.
Well, one of the biggest things that kind of people have a misconception about Star Trek: The Original Series is that it was low budget, and in fact, it was not. And those are cutting edge effects for like the time. And when I
Yeah.
see like the behind the scenes, I'm really impressed at like the model work and the blue screen stuff and like how
Yeah.
they filmed it and everything. So yeah, I wish they had a way, maybe they do now, of just like recompositing. Well, I guess maybe you'd need the original. I don't know what the state of these original film frames are or whatever, but it would be neat
Yeah.
if they recomposited all the original stuff and made it look kind of like model work again, instead of like the CGI stuff's not bad at all, don't get me wrong, but it would be more fitting. I think it would be a better restoration if you actually did model and then slight CG, updates or something, or maybe even like, redid the like use the original plates and stuff and just use CG to enhance those to give them a little bit more definition, but not like to just redo it in CG. Although again, the CG work is great. I like it. It's fine, but it would be neat to like actually like get the original stuff in 4K somehow, and you could do it
Yeah.
because it was done on film. So if they have the plates, they could do it. So that would be cool. Or it'd be neat to give it a project to people like Buck Admiral and some others to like redo the models, filming models exactly the way they would have done it back then, and then redo the shots
Mhm.
with exactly the way like
But why
as
not
true
just,
as all
just watch it?
possible.
Just watch the original one. It already.
No, I know, but I'm saying if you want to increase the fidelity and make it more, because like the filmed stuff like back then, like sometimes the blue screen, the chroma didn't like line up perfectly or whatever, and you have like sometimes you have fade into space, or like there's a lot of like stuff like that, as I recall. I haven't seen the original effects in a long time, so maybe on the remastered it's different, as you say, Father. Well, maybe you'll watch it in your Discord channel so I can see like watch an episode
No,
or
I
something.
always do those on my TV because I don't have a Blu-ray player on my computer.
Oh, I gotcha.
I should try to like rip them to my machine, but I don't know. That seems like a lot of effort.
Aaron says that sounds like something Adam Savage. Exactly, Adam Savage would probably like to do something like that. That is up his alley. It's true. But yeah, and then the other thing, I was this week for some reason I was listening to TOS music a lot, and the animated series has like kind of the same cues over and over, but I was also thinking like sometimes the TOS music, we only like hear like the famous ones like over and over again, like and they do tend to have like you know, more it's like more dramatic or whatever, so people kind of think of the music as that, but it's very good classical type influenced music. Like you hear Respighi being referenced like in the Pines of Rome, you know, the and then you also hear Prokofiev, Alexander Nevsky being
Oh, in Star
quoted.
Trek too. Yeah,
No,
for
but
sure.
also in
But
the
also in the
original
original series.
series,
Interesting.
during the Doomsday, I think, dun, 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 like, you know, it does that little like succession of like string with, you know, horn instruments and stuff. I don't know. I'm not a musician, so I don't know how to like correctly describe it, but it's exciting and thrilling. But it's exactly what kind of Prokofiev. It's kind of like a quote from it's almost an exact quote of the notes from Prokofiev. So I love it. These are things you don't realize, you know, until you like really start listening to these things. So yeah, Star Trek's awesome. Star Trek the original series is awesome. So is the animated series. Gentlemen, we're coming up to the hour. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about this episode? And audience, was there anything we missed talking about that you wanted us to talk about? Please let us know. Wow.
Yeah, no, I think we covered pretty much emptied my brain of my thoughts.
Hey, we filled
about
almost an
episode.
hour of conversation. That's good. We always try to make it to at least an hour, so that's perfect.
Yeah.
Last night on Text Trek, we had Doug Drexler. See, I'm sober now. I can say his name. I couldn't say his name to save my life last night. Yeah, I was doing that exactly that. I was like, it was terrible. But that
great guy.
Speaking of like, you know, preserving a little bit of history, he had such a zany interview, but it was so awesome. I was so endeared by it. It was great.
Did he talk about the Star Trek trading post? And
he did. He was standing the entire time, did not sit down. There is a parrot involved.
Wow, I need to go back and watch this.
Yeah. But yeah, we had a lot of fun talking to him. He said some interesting things. If anyone is a fan of the Orville, he said some interesting things about season 4. We talked a lot about Star Trek, though. A lot about just working on Enterprise, designing the NX-01. We talked about some of the recent stuff he did on Picard season 3, which came out last year. So
dang, I should have tried to jump onto that. I would have loved to ask him about Have Gun Will Travel, because I know he's a big fan of that.
He talked about
show,
that.
and
he talked about his love of watching Roddenberry's Western work before Star Trek.
Yeah. Gosh, I've been exploring that show this past year. I mean, there's so many episodes. I don't know how many, couple hundred.
Yeah, he
episodes,
talked about Dick Tracy too last night.
I mean, if I won an Oscar, I would talk about it like every day.
I would talk about it every day too. But yeah, so go check out the replay on that. It was very cool to be in the live audience for it. It was
available on podcast platforms Monday.
Okay.
Yep. And then today, if you're a Patreon, I'm doing your promos for you. You do your promo.
Well, yes, if you are a Patreon supporter of Text Trek,
I know your shtick.
Then you should come to our watch party in about 36 minutes. We are going to be watching the Voyager episode "Someone to Watch Over Me." In case you didn't get enough Valentine's Day romance this week, we'll have a romantic episode of Star Trek Voyager in the Patreon watch party. Join as little as $2 a month and come watch Trek with us.
And Sub Commander, tell folks where they can find you, and is there anything you'd like to highlight or promote this week?
Oh, I want to do a Patreon thing where people help me buy these boots. I've been looking for like cosplay boots I've been going, but you know about this Starfleet sale because I tried to pass them off on you. I've been trying to find like perfect like TOS leather black boots, you know, like the old motorcycle boots, and I've just not been able to find them. But no, seriously, don't send me money for that, or do. But no, I don't have anything. You know, still active on what was Twitter, now X.
We still call it Twitter. Everyone still just calls it Twitter.
It's so lame. But tonight, for those of you who like to stay up, follow hashtag TOS Saturday Night. They're going to be doing live tweeting of, I believe it's Mirror Mirror. I'm not sure if I will join because I have a hard time staying up now. But that's a great community out there. So anybody's on that platform, I recommend it. That's
I
at midnight.
attended one of those. I went to one a couple weeks ago, and it was.
I saw you. That was cool.
There's some
cool.
very knowledgeable people on there. I remember the first time I did it, I'm like, oh, I'm going to blow them away with all my trivia. And I'm just like, no, they just, just stay in your lane. Everybody here knows everything. So.
Well, we all have our specialties, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today. We'll see you guys next week for what was the next episode?
Practical Joker.
That's
yeah,
Which
fantastic.
I will be at sea on the
That's
Star Trek
right.
cruise, but I will try to watch. I don't know what's going to be going on Saturday. I don't know if I might be in Aruba or Curacao, but if I'm on the ship, I will try to pop in to at least say hi.
Awesome, that would be really great. And of course, we look forward to your ship to shore transmissions. Just like last time, those were fun. So
That's
keep
what
us.
I'll label them. I'll label them ship to shore.
Ship to shore transmissions. There you go. Yay. I like that. Yay. We came up with a title for it. So you can find us here next week. And then also we'll be doing Starfleet Sohail After Dark. I think, wait, when do we come up next week on when we're coming up to see you?
Wednesday.
Yeah, so Wednesday. No, I thought it was. Oh, I got confused. Yes, so no, we won't be doing Starfleet Sohail After Dark live from from there. But yeah, we're looking forward to that. And so yeah, so live long and prosper, folks, and we will see you next time.